Today, another first for the channel, a BMW engine. Okay, we've done a few BMW engines on the channel, and I have done some B series. Sounds like I'm talking about Honda engines. What I meant to say is I've torn down a B48, and I've also torn down the little bitty 3-cylinder, the B38, but I haven't done a B48, and that changes now. Today we're going to tear down this B48 2-liter 4-cylinder out of a BMW X2, a 2018 with just 95,000 miles on it. I think the X2 is essentially a rebadged Kia Forte 5, I think. I mean, the front looks the same. Surely the back looks a lot different. No. They look similar. They're not the same cars. I know this. I kid. This is a core engine, which means it is bad. And I don't know what exactly is wrong with it, but I will tell you this. I can't put it on my engine stand because the chain's on the back. So that makes things a little more challenging. The B48 replaced what I would consider one of the worst BMW engines ever produced, the N20. Now, I'm not telling you that all N20s are trash. There are some people that have had great luck with N20s. I just haven't met them yet. But I've heard a lot of really good things about the B48. Much like the bigger 6-cylinder, the B58 has a huge cult following, and the B38s seem to be pretty reliable as well. Although I will say that these particular engines are $7,000 to $8,000 used, which means there is some demand. But I think that falls in line for the value of the vehicle, the age of the vehicle, and the fact that it's a BMW. Now, these engines came in both front-wheel drive based BMWs and rear-wheel drive based BMWs, the 3 Series, the 2 Series, X1s, 1 Series, the X2s, X3s. Pretty much, if it's a late model 4-cylinder BMW, it is this engine. Now, there are different iterations of B48. This one produces 228 horsepower, but depending on the vehicle you get it in, they can produce more or less. Well, this won't be sketchy at all because this is super stable on some 2x4s and this table. We're going to see if this engine turns over. I am inclined to believe it does because there's not a torque converter on it anymore. That was violent, but it does turn over. It's pretty smooth. I don't hear anything banging around in there. It's definitely got some compression in it. Not a lot of compression, though. I do hear some metallic sounding things, but that could be not that. So I kind of have a plan here, and I'm going to kind of follow the same steps as I took on the B38 3-cylinder. We're going to strip the front, or is this the back? This side of the engine we're going to take apart to see if there's enough bolt holes that are stronger than the average bolt hole. That makes no sense. To mount this engine to the engine stand, which took a lot of work on the last engine, I'm sure it's going to be just fine, or fun, one of the two. Came right off. Uh-oh. There's some signs of coolant leakages. There's the water pump right there. Are you okay? Well, there's 2 really strong holes. That sounds so not what I mean it to sound like. Pop this off. That's 3. Those are all really close to each other. And this is the water pump housing and bracket. It's not looking good for putting this on the engine stand. Not at all. But this side, I don't mean to sound like Borat, not this side. This side has plenty of large bolt holes, but there's a turbo in the way. So I think what I'm going to try to do is we'll take this heat shield off, take the turbo off, and then I'll try to mount it sideways. Then it doesn't matter what the front or the back is. This comes off. This comes off. No, this comes off. Much better. At this point, we can check to see if the turbo has any shaft play. It does not. It spins nice. Unfortunately, the electronic wastegate, it was broken probably in handling or moving this engine around. It was like that when I bought it. But the rest of the turbo seems to be pretty good. Now, BMWs are kind of notorious for having what's called wastegate rattle, where the exhaust housing actually wallows out the hole for the fulcrum. And this really isn't too bad. I don't know if this generation of engine actually suffers from that. That's more of an N thing, especially N54s, than a B thing. I almost said bee sting. Next, we're going to start unbolting some of the lines. This is oil feed. Needs a little help here. Now the oil return. This might just have to come out when I pull the turbo off. And then it looks like, yeah, that was a coolant feed. Where's the other coolant line? I don't see it. It's missing. So those are the two coolant lines on the turbo. But when I was looking at this thing, I noticed that line is a bunch of built up coolant. This thing must have had multiple coolant leaks. Now it's time to pull the turbo off the cylinder head, and these are kind of cool. A lot of the engines from this generation BMW do this, where you just have to unbolt the top and then it pivots out. I'll show you. It's fine. I think we need a little help from Blue here. Get up, time to go to work. It doesn't want to do that. Just gotta get this oil return line off. It's a little challenging here. Okay, so I don't think I have to take the bottom ones out. I think I just gotta figure out a way to angle this thing out of there. I think I really need to get this oil line off. I think that's inhibiting us. There we are. That changes everything. Probably not. And the turbos is off. I'm gonna get these lines out of the way so that we can try to get this thing hung on the stand. Ta-da! That wasn't fun. The next thing I'd like to do is remove the coil so we can get the plugs out. Well, the plugs are not terribly tight, which tells me someone may have been here doing some diag. Wait, what does this plug say? Champion. Champion? No! I'm just joking around. A lot of these early B48s, and I think some of the other engines came with Champion plugs, which is strange for a BMW. It's just how it is. And these appear to be original. Maybe they've been replaced. I don't know what the interval is for these engines. They don't look smashed, although there's a little bit of white residue around that one and that one. I wonder if we're going to see signs of an overheat. Next, we're going to move on to the fuel system. We're going to get these lines and the pump and the rail and injectors out. Now the fuel pump. Looks good, like a fuel pump. Now for the rail with injectors. All right, now we'll get the other two bolts out. Oh, that was easy. There's the injectors. I don't see any smashed tips. They look pretty good. Now it's time to remove the valve cover. You know what? I hope I didn't just go back to front. Well, let's see here. Everything's where it's supposed to be. I don't see anything terrible. This looks good. So the inside of this engine actually looks pretty good. It's really clean in here. Looks like it had oil changes done on time. I don't see any major varnish deposits, no oil deposits. I don't see any forbidden glitter, no sparkles. This checks a lot of boxes for a good engine. I better not say that. Even the chain guides, all that looks pretty good. Next, we're going to remove the intake manifold. Well, it's kind of odd that one valve looks wet and one doesn't. But there's not a ton of varnish in here. Although that valve looks kind of suspicious. I don't see any chunks of metal. No obvious causes for concern yet. Now we're going to work on the bell housing side of the engine so we can remove the timing cover. That was easy. Now the flex plate. Now some of you will probably notice the green paint on this engine. A lot of these salvage yards paint their engines to mark them. They do make colored tags, just so you guys know. It's a lot easier. Now we're going to work from the bottom up. We're going to start removing the bolts that hold the oil pan to the timing cover. Now we have some bolts that hold the cylinder head to the timing cover. Now we have all the timing cover bolts. I think that's it. It looks like I can pry right here. Or I can go like this. Stuff's happening. It moved. Let's replace the pry over here. Feels like I missed a bolt or three. I didn't. Definitely did not miss any bolts. It's really tight around this area. Oh, here we go. We're moving. Trying to be gentle and not pry on the mating surface, just in case any of these parts have some value. Just gotta walk it off. I think there's a song about that. Definitely about timing covers. And voila! So the timing system looks pretty good. The tensioner doesn't seem to be too far out. I don't see any broken guides or rails. It all looks to be in excellent condition. The first thing we're going to do to take the timing system apart is unbolt the tensioner, and for that I have to be as safe as humanly possible, because you never know what these things will do. I felt safe. The next thing I'm going to remove are these T45s. There's one here, and one here. These hold the rails on this secondary chain. That came out really nice and easy. I kind of remember this one not being so great on the last one. Let's go set this down for a second. Instead of fighting this, I'm just going to remove this. This is it's like an idler, but it also changes the rate. You can see there's a smaller gear on the secondary chain than the primary chain. That's really tight. That is incredibly tight. Why is that so tight? Oh, stuff's moving. Yeah, that came right out. And this, I just have a couple T30s there. There's that. Actually, these might just slide right off the... Look at that. I don't even need to take them out. No, I need to take them out. Well, the rails don't look too bad. A little bit of wear. You can see where the chain was riding, but I don't see anything coming apart. These are in excellent condition. We're just going to put them right here for safekeeping. Oh no! I hope I didn't scratch it. Perfect. Nobody's ever going to step on those there. Well, BMW certainly makes guides better than they used to. I can't remember if I can get the chain all the way off. Yes?
Yes. Yes. No.
There is a trick to this. I think I have to pull the cam to get this past this. I don't really want to tear up the head at all. Not that I think the head's going to be any good, but I still don't want to tear anything up unnecessarily. So what I'm going to do next is we're going to cram the cam caps off so that we can take a look at the journals. I'm not going to touch the Valvetronic system because I don't need to do that. But I'm going to take this apart so we can A, look at the cam journals, and B, get the chain off when we pull that camshaft. Let's crap these things off. I remember there being a thing with the B48 that this may not come out. It comes, oh no. No, I don't think it does. I think I have to take the cam gear off. Huh. Well, that's unfortunate, because it takes a special tool to take the cam gears off. Or maybe I can just get it up enough. I think I can move this up enough to get the chain off, which I suppose that's the goal, right? So I can rescue this chain. We're so close. What if we...
It's off!
And what a chain that is. So yeah, I'm pretty sure these... I don't think I can take this off. Maybe... We're going to try some stuff. I don't have any expectations here. We're just going to try stuff. And we'll probably be bolting these back down in a second. Oh, there's the roller for the high pressure fuel pump. So the thought I had... Yeah, that doesn't work. Okay, I'm not going to pry on anything, not going to force anything. I can tell you I don't have this tool to take that off. Maybe something I should invest in, since I've now done 3 BMW B series, and I think they all have the same basic design. B48s may be different. It's been a while on those. So I'm going to bolt this back down, and we'll just have to pull the head conventionally. Before I bolt everything back down, we can take a small look at the cam journals. They're not really too torn up. Little bit of damage, a little bit of metal transfer, a little bit of wear on the caps. It's not awful. I wouldn't condemn the caps by any stretch. That's what I wanted to avoid. Not terrible. I'm not going to go crazy with this. We're just going to kind of snug them up. Perfect. Now it's time to try to remove the head bolts, and there's a few challenges with this. Since I'm not taking any of the valve train out and none of the Valvetronic stuff's coming out, we have to remove this little trigger wheel. At least that's what I think this is, or position. We're going to just remove the 10mm bolt, and it's pinned, so that goes right back into the same spot. We'll reinstall that, and that gets us access to that head bolt down there. And then this one down here, it's a little challenging as well because the tool I have doesn't really fit that well. This is really meant for a thin shank or a 3/8 drive T60, which is not a super common tool. I think I have one at home, but I didn't bring it with me today. So we'll make do with what we have here. But before we do that, we have a couple E10s to take out right there. All right, let's start getting these head bolts out. That wasn't very tight. Well, I just broke my tool. That's cool. I got more. The fact that not all of these are as tight as the next really is a great clue. That's exactly why I use the breaker bar, so that I can tell if an engine has been overheated or someone's been in there. They won't have the same amount of force required to remove them. Now I'm going to remove these using this, not my air gun, because I don't want to tear up anything since it's really close proximity to important things. And what I meant to say is I'm going to use my air to get this apart. I'm just going to do it very gently. You can hear the head gasket starting to let go. Okay, it's time to pull the cylinder head off. It weighs a little bit because it's got all the valve train in it still. Well, what do we see? That's not good right there and right there. Matching marks right there. Yep. Well, it may not be super apparent, but if you look right there, it looks like combustion gases were getting into the cooling system. The head gasket has similar marks. Not on that side, which I think that goes this way. So you don't see, we may not see it on the cylinder head, but it's certainly got between the head gasket here and the cooling system on at the block. Water jacket and combustion gases is not a match made in anything good. So this thing was definitely hot. So I looked the cylinder head over pretty closely. I didn't see any cracks. There's nothing jumping out at me. It's not super clean either, like it was chewing on coolant. I think what was happening is combustion gases were getting into the cooling system. And for that to happen, it probably lifted a head, or at least breached the head gasket, which means that this head is likely not flat anymore. It would have to be resurfaced. I don't know how far out it is, but without cracks in it, it's a pretty good sign that this head might be salvageable, may not end up in the scrap bin after all. And that's pretty good because the head's pretty expensive for one of these engines. It's about $600 to $700 for a nice loaded head. So it's nice to see no cracks, but I don't know how flat it is. All right, let's remove the head gasket so we can conduct our scientific test. Oops. I think everything's good. We're still going to take it apart. Let's take a look at these bores. It's interesting that all of the bores from late model BMW engines look like that. They had a little X pattern on them. I wonder what causes that. I'm sure someone can chime in. I don't see any major damage. It's pretty good. We won't know until the pistons are out, though. Not a ton of vertical wear. Here's a close-up of where those gases were getting through. Usually the middle cylinders run the hottest on engines like this. And it's pretty apparent there and there. Now it's time for the water pump. Is that it? That's it. How do we get this thing off? Like that. Ooh. Oh no. It's bad. This poor water pump, it's bad. It's leaking. It's clearly been leaking out of the weep hole. Or maybe it dripped from something above it. I don't know what's above it. But to me that looks like it's coming out of at least the seal on the water pump. It's no good. It's not good. Before I flip this thing over, we're going to have a few more parts to remove, like this housing. Give it a tap. Nope. Nope. Did I miss a bolt? Nope. Blue. Hung up on a dowel. Now we'll remove the oil filter housing and oil cooler. That can't be it, can it? Nope, there's a bolt right there. That's it. Oh. Well, that's bad. I think we found, well, this may be an effect, not a cause. The first thing I noticed when I pulled this off was that the gasket was broken and brittle. Oil filter housing or oil cooler housing gasket on a BMW, bad? Never! No, they go bad all the time. This one, super brittle too and deformed. But let's go look at the housing. So this got hot, really hot. It melted between the two passages here. This is melted, this is broken. Now, I know you could be quick to point at this as the root failure, but I don't believe that's the case. I think that when exhaust gases get into coolant, it superheats the coolant, which allows things like this to melt. So I think this is an effect of the overheat and not the cause of the overheat. I believe a coolant leak, like we've seen on the block so far, was likely the initial culprit. Now I'm going to rotate? Yeah, rotate this over. We're going to see how much comes out of it. I know I could drain it like a normal person, but you guys know I'm not a normal person. So we're just going to see what happens here. Oh, we've got some juice coming out. Wow, that might be the driest engine yet. Now it's time to pull the oil pan, and what immediately struck me as I rotated this over, that is interesting drain bolt. That's not supposed to be, nope. Man, I really wish I could get all these bolts out at once. Oh, I can. Let's see if this pan comes right off. Ooh, it's pretty decent. Inside of the pan has a little bit of buildup, but this is not metal. This is just a little bit of oil varnish. Looks clean. Pickup, clean. All this looks pretty nice. The next thing I'm going to do is remove the oil pump. My battery is bad. Those weren't even that tight. What are you doing, Milwaukee? Okay, that one was tight. Can I get this off without taking this off? Yes. Now, normally we take oil pumps apart on this channel. That's like a thing that I do. But we haven't really seen any signs of an oiling failure yet. So unless I find a wiped out rod bearing, which at this point, I hate to say it, or maybe I should be happy to say it, it's unlikely that we're going to find that. I'm going to leave this together because these do sell. So we'll see what happens, but it's unlikely I'll take this apart. Now I can get these chains off. That little one's kind of, but this one. All right, now we can remove the windage tray. Is that what that is? Will it make it? No. What if I take the extension out? Boop. One thing I find kind of interesting about the B48 is that although it is a 4-cylinder and it's only 2 liters of displacement, it still has balance shafts. It's pretty odd. I mean, I know there's a lot of engines that have balance shafts, but I didn't expect it with this. Well, I knew it had them as soon as I saw the casting, but the casting is what was surprising. Now it's time to remove the rod caps, and I think I can get to all of them in the current position of the crankshaft. so I won't need to turn it over. We're just going to crack them all loose, pull all the caps, and then push all the rods and pistons out. All right, I'm actually going to turn this like this to push these out. Don't normally get engines in this position, but when in Rome. So at this point, all we've got left is the crank, and I know some of you may be thinking, why would you remove the crank from this? You haven't seen any signs that there's going to be any main bearing damage. You're going to save someone a bunch of grief putting it together. Listen, I would love to sell it complete, but the unknown is what I don't like, and if I remove it, then it is no longer unknown. Then I know I can sell it. Plus, if someone's this far into it, they're going to put new bearings in it anyway. Zip these main caps out. Now the crank should just boop right on out of there. Oh wait, maybe I can't just take the crank out because of this. Yes, I must remove more parts. Let's see if this will help us here. If I turn this like this, then I can get that all the way out. There we go, keep that together. Now I think we can pull it apart. Let's see, did that help us? Perfect. Like always, let's start out with the rod bearings. They're beautiful. These are in excellent condition. Now to the rods and pistons. Pretty beefy rods. Pistons don't seem to have a ton of wear, ton of damage. The oil rings look clear, not like you can see through them, but they're not all clogged up with carbon like a lot of late model DI engines. A little bit of wear there. All the rings are freed, nothing stuck in the ringland. I don't really see any major problems here. All this stuff looks like you could easily reuse it. The main bearings also excellent condition. Virtually no wear. And because of that, the crankshaft looks excellent, which is good. This is a pretty expensive component, $500-600 probably. You never can bank on getting a good crank out of some of these core engines because I don't always know everything about them. I was lucky I found a tag with a VIN on it. Let's peek at the bores. They look pretty good. A little bit of vertical wear. I think these would clean up without having to do a bunch of machine work. A BMW with an overheating problem. Say it ain't so. I feel like we've seen that a time or 30 on this channel, and I'm kind of disappointed because I myself am a BMW fan. I have a few of their older cars, and they've been dealing with cooling system problems since the late 80s and early 90s. That's a very long time to be dealing with the same types of problems. And I'm not going to pretend that only BMW is the one that has those issues. And you also have to consider the fact that I only buy bad engines to tear down. I'm tearing down the outliers, not the ones that are still on the road. But that being said, it's kind of a trend with them. When I tear down LSs, for example, I tear down hundreds of those a year. I see problems across the board. Not saying that they're all bad, but I buy all the bad ones. Lots of the four-cylinder, in fact, every four-cylinder BMW engine I've torn down on this channel has been overheated. Every single one. And some of the six-cylinders too. So I'm just observing a trend. That's all I'm saying. I don't think these are bad cars. I don't think that these things are all going to blow up at low miles. And I also don't think this one was that bad. The last several teardowns I've done, not a lot of stuff I could sell. Most of the parts were scrap at best. But in this case, I got a lot of really good parts. And I think that's because this one was shut down relatively early. I think someone was driving it, it had some warning lights, maybe it was pushing coolant out of the overflow. Obviously, combustion gases were getting into the cooling system, and that's what melted the oil filter housing. It was leaking coolant, run low on coolant, or something else failed that I didn't get with this engine. We didn't see what the thermostat looked like. I don't know what the condition of the rest of the car was. Either way, I think they caught it relatively early compared to some of the other engines we've torn down. And I'm kind of grateful because I needed some parts to sell. Speaking of selling parts, if you'd like to buy anything out of this engine or anything else I've torn down, or out of this V10 Audi S6, this might end up being a teardown, but it's broken. It's not bad. I mean, it's bad, but it's broke. It's the same. It's broken on the outside in, not the inside out, is what I'm trying to get at here. So if you'd like to buy parts off of this or anything else I've torn down in the past, you can go to Importapart.com. I've been adding our parts cards every single week. If you don't see what you're looking for, we have a part request form. You can fill it out. It sends us an email of exactly what it is you're chasing. I really hope you enjoyed this teardown as always. I love all the comments, all the feedback, and even the criticism. I love it all, and I'll catch you on the next one.